In July 2020, it was revealed that federal agents in unmarked vehicles were picking up protesters off of the streets of Portland. We didn't see any open letters lamenting state forces violating the First Amendment when using violence on civilians protesting police brutality. We don't get discourse creating essays on cultural warfare when the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, a global nonviolent campaign against Israeli occupation, is being made illegal across the United States. Was the First Amendment not under threat in 2019 when the Senate passed the Combating BDS Act? An act that would uphold laws in almost 30 states barring working with anyone who supports the BDS movement.
This anti-Israel crusade has waged economic war against the Jewish state by pushing companies around the world to boycott any business with Israel or its entities.
Where are the countless columns, essays, reports, and broadcast segments dedicated to how students and scholars have been persecuted for their support of Palestinian human rights and statehood? Cancel culture only seems to exist when people from certain demographics or people associated with one particular end of the political spectrum express outrage and go after those with institutional and social power.
No matter where the issue comes from on the political spectrum, the lens of power can really help us see what's going on. And by and large, it is not left-wing anti-racist undergraduates, even in their dozens or hundreds. It is not anti-racist activists on social media, trying to live on GoFundMes and Patreons who have the power, right? It's people with corporate backing, it's people who hold political office.
And some of the most elite writers and thinkers in the country are using their well-paid, well-protected pulpits to demonize people who don't have material power. In the process, they are manufacturing a new class of martyrs who lose no speech, no power, but lament its loss anyway.
And it's like, who are people? What do you mean by people, right? You look at the article, and it's a link to tweets or Instagram posts and XYZ. And that's how these headlines become so dramatic, because instead of just embracing the greater narrative of what the harm is, what the big through line is, we tend to want to, choose that we should give this level of countenance to disparate ideas as opposed to embracing the core narrative.
Of critique or call for accountability into just one thing, being canceled. As a result of that flattening, the phrase cancellation implies that whatever criticisms are being lobbed at something are simply the product of the unhinged outrage of people unable to enjoy anything in life and who want to suppress your ability to say and do what you want. And it absolutely does not take into account how access to free speech is not equally distributed in this country, particularly along class, race, and gender lines. It is worth noting that almost half of Americans have heard the term cancel culture, and those most familiar with the term understand it as something meant to bring about accountability, not suppress free speech. Yet, looking at how we discuss and cover so-called cancel culture, it's hard to see that. And this isn't a new or unique phenomenon. We see it time and time again with terms rooted in a demand for rethinking the status quo. Terms like PC, woke, and most recently critical race theory have been turned into dog whistles for outrage and disingenuous discourse decrying the destruction of American freedom.
We've got to get down to the problems. We can't worry about being politically correct.
A new piece of legislation for the upcoming legislative session called Stop Wrongs Against Our Kids and Employees Act, the Stop Woke Act.
The next thing we know, the federal government has special training classes in critical race theory. How did it happen?
To me, political correctness is tyranny, just tyranny with manners.
It seems that a deteriorating society is exactly what political correctness strives for.
None of this is to say that online bullying, harassment, and mob mentality don't exist. Of course they exist, and they exist beyond ideological constraints. A collection of people getting together to complain about something online behind the security of anonymity and digital distance is as old as an internet connection. The only difference today is the constant connectivity and the ease of access we have to one another and to those who were always before out of reach.